Are you unsure about which arm routine to do at the gym because you're not seeing the results you want or you don't even know what to do? In this video, I have the solution for you because I'm going to show you the ultimate arm routine that you can start doing right now at the gym to maximize your results. So let's get right to it. As you probably already know, the arm is made up of the biceps and the triceps. The biceps is made up of the short head and the long head, and the triceps consists of the lateral head, the medial head, and the long head. So we're going to do exercises to train all of them. We're going to start the routine by training triceps, and the reason is very simple. It has 3 heads and makes up 70% of the arm, while the biceps is smaller. Therefore, the triceps has more growth potential and also gives your arm more size and aesthetics. We're going to start the routine with dumbbell French press, but with a small variation that I really like to include. And it's simply letting the dumbbell drop right behind your shoulder. I'm sure you see a lot of people doing the French press back here, like this. Well, leaning a bit off the bench, like this. I personally much prefer doing it this way. Why? Because you're going to stimulate the triceps just the same. But the risk of discomfort, whether in the elbow, shoulder, or elsewhere, is much lower when you do it like this. So we're going to do this variation because, as I said, for me, it's much better. Here we're going to do 3 sets. The first set will be 6 to 8 reps with more weight, and then the next 2 sets will be lighter, 8 to 10 reps with a bit less weight. But all of these sets are going to be very, very close to muscle failure, because that's the key. We continue with the unilateral katana extension. This one focuses more on the long head of the triceps, which is the largest part. Here we're going to do 2 sets of 10 to 15 repetitions. It's a very good exercise for working in a high rep range. Key points for this exercise: set the pulley at hip height. This is because that way you'll be able to more easily perform the full range of motion. A lot of people set it higher, and then the pulley ends up here and doesn't let them go all the way down. So it's important to set it at your hip height. And a super important detail is to use a wrist strap, because if you use a wrist strap, as you'll notice, when you do the exercise, you'll be able to do it in a really, really comfortable way. However, without that wrist strap, you'd have to grab the pulley directly and do it. Yes, you can do it, but it's much more likely that the grip itself and the discomfort of grabbing the pulley directly will limit you. So using a wrist strap here is a really good idea. Once you have it, you get into position like this. And an extra tip is to use your opposite hand to hold your biceps like this to create a stop and have much more stability. It's important here to go through the full range of motion all the way to the end, really stretching out that long head of the triceps and going all the way up. This is a great exercise to go to complete failure with partial reps, even until you can't do any more. We finished triceps with an exercise you probably already know, but with a variation that I'm sure you don't. And it's with this classic rope extension, but if you notice, done in reverse with your back to the pulley. By doing it this way, we're going to take the tension off the shoulder and put it all on the triceps. And you might ask yourself, why? It's very simple. If you think about it, doing the extension like this, what happens is while I'm here, I stop using my shoulder. If you notice, the shoulder moves forward, it bends, meaning it goes forward. So that means that during the exercise, in order not to move forward, the shoulder is exerting force. However, what happens if we turn around, do the extension like this, and here I stop using my shoulder? Nothing happens. Simply, if you notice, the elbow goes up and down, which is what the triceps does. That's why the shoulder isn't being stimulated at all, because even if you relax it, it doesn't move forward like it did before. So in this way, we're only going to stimulate the triceps and not the shoulder at all. Here we're going to do 3 sets of 10 to 12 reps, also to total failure with partial reps just like before, like with the katana. So here it's exactly the same. It's important when doing this to press your back firmly against the pulley pad, get into position, and then perform the extension like this. I tell you not to focus on spreading the rope at the bottom, because this movement here isn't done by the triceps. So just do it like these and bring it up. That would be perfect. And then it's also important to keep your arm, the humerus, like this, close to your body, and just focus on moving from the elbow. In other words, just focus on making this movement and not this or like this. Keep your arm close to your body, and the less it moves, the better. If you just do it like this, that's perfectly done. By the way, I wanted to remind you that I have very, very limited spots available for my one-on-one personalized coaching sessions. So I'm going to leave my website, albertomareque.com, here in the description of this video. There you can contact me, tell me more about your situation and your goals, and I can help you in a way that's 100% personalized for you. But as I said, spots are very, very limited, so go to the website now and let's achieve your best version together. Let's move on to biceps, and the first exercise will be this biceps curl on the machine. It's a classic, but it's also very, very good as a first exercise to make progress with, increasing the weight over time. This exercise focuses more on the short head of the biceps, this part right here. And not only that, but it's also harder to perform the exercise at this final part of the movement. That is, when the biceps is contracted, that's when it's going to be hardest for you to do it. And that's exactly why we're including it now at the beginning of the biceps routine. it's known that when a muscle is contracted and it's harder to perform the movement, it actually generates less fatigue. So we're going to save the exercises that generate the most fatigue for the end. First, in this exercise, we're going to set the seat so that when you place your arms, your entire arm is supported. In other words, don't let your arm hang off like this. Make sure your triceps are fully supported. That's very important. Next, it's important to use a full range of motion, especially all the way up for the reasons I explained, and lower as much as your machine allows. Lift using a weight that allows you, as you can see, to control the movement well, and don't just try to lift more weight by doing this, shortening the range of motion or jerking the weight, because that won't stimulate your biceps at all. Here, we're going to do 3 sets. The first set will be about 6 to 8 reps with more weight, and the other 2 sets with less weight but more reps, around 8 to 10, just like in the French press. But make sure all of them are very, very close to failure so that you can barely do another rep, that it's really hard to finish, that they're challenging. Next exercise, focused a bit more on the long head of the biceps, is this seated curl on an inclined bench. For this exercise, it's important to set the bench at about 45 degrees. So in this case, for example, that would be perfect. And then, a very important detail that not many people consider is the seat. If you have the chance to incline it like this one, that's great, because as you'll notice, when you do the exercise, it'll provide support and make it much more comfortable for you. However, if it were flat, you would slide forward, roll on it much more easily. So this is a tip that not many people consider, and it really helps a lot. Then, as I mentioned, in this exercise, we're aiming to focus a bit more on the long head of the biceps. And for that, and to do it correctly, it's super important to incline the bench, yes. But then, when doing the curl, always keep your elbow behind your torso with your shoulder, which is called extension, like this. It's super important that you don't do it like this, because if you notice, look, you're turning it into a regular curl, just like when you do it standing up, the same thing. So the key to this one is to always keep your arm behind, and from there, focus solely on this movement, which is flexing the elbow, the one that stimulates the biceps. So you have to do it like this. Even if you have to use less weight, use it, but it's much more worth it. Here we're going to do 2 sets of 10 to 12 repetitions, very, very close to muscle failure, practically reaching failure, so you can barely do 1 more. Next exercise, hammer curl with dumbbells. This exercise, in addition to focusing, of course, on both heads of the biceps, also greatly stimulates your forearm. This area here, specifically the brachioradialis, thanks to this neutral grip. Key points for this exercise, which is actually very simple, are just to use this neutral grip here and do it like this. That is, don't do it like the classic curl like this, but instead keep your wrist neutral and do it like this. It's important to go through the full range of motion all the way down, fully extending the elbow like this. In other words, don't stop here and go up, extend it fully and go all the way up like this. That would be done perfectly. This exercise is great for going heavy because thanks to this neutral grip, we're able to move more weight. As I mentioned, it's not just the biceps doing the work, but it also heavily involves the forearm. So you'll have more strength in this exercise than in other curls. We're going to do 2 sets of 10 to 12 repetitions. Here, yes, go to total failure with partial reps until you can't do even 1 more, practically until you can't even move your arm. Here I leave you another video with a chest routine that will help you a lot, so go watch it and subscribe to the channel because there's going to be much more content coming that will really help you with your progress.